The night was quiet, and the city lights flickered like stars on the ground. Ray sat alone in his small apartment, sipping cold tea and staring at his computer screen. He was a normal man, not a soldier, not a hero, just a simple engineer with a boring life. But that night, everything changed. At exactly midnight, the screen turned black. Then a countdown appeared, glowing red, 10, 9, 8. Ray blinked, thinking it was a virus or a prank. He tried to shut the screen off, but nothing worked. The numbers kept falling, and the room started to shake. Then came the flash. A bright blue light exploded from the screen, blinding him for a second. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't alone anymore. A girl stood in the middle of his room. She looked young, maybe his age. Her skin was pale with a soft blue glow. She wore a strange suit that shimmered like water. Her eyes were wide, and she looked scared, like a lost child in the dark. Ray stood up quickly, knocking over his chair. "Who are you?" he shouted, backing away. The girl didn't speak at first. She held something in her hand, a small glowing cube. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "You're the one. The signal reached you." Ray stared at her, completely confused. "What signal? What are you talking about?" he asked. The girl looked down, then took a slow step forward. "My name is Lyra," she said, "and I came from a dying place." Her voice trembled as she spoke, but there was strength behind her eyes. "You're the only human who can help," she said. Ray shook his head, not understanding. "This is crazy," he whispered. "Are you an alien or something?" Lyra nodded, her hands shaking. "Yes, I am. But I'm not here to hurt you," she said quickly. "There's no time. The countdown has started." Ray looked back at his screen. The numbers were now frozen at 0, but in his heart, he felt like something terrible was coming. "What is this countdown?" he asked. Lyra walked to the window and looked up at the sky. "Your world thinks it's safe," she said, "but space is folding in on itself. My people tried to stop it, but we failed," she added. Ray didn't know what to say. He had never believed in aliens or time travel or anything like that. He lived a quiet life, fixed machines, and watched sci-fi movies. And now one of those movies was happening in his room. "I'm not special," Ray said. "Why me?" Lyra turned to him, her eyes shining. "Because your brain can see the signal," she said. "That makes you different." Before he could ask more, she walked over and held out the glowing cube. "This device will take us to other versions of your world," she explained. "You must find the right one. The only timeline where the collapse can be stopped." Ray hesitated, afraid to touch it, but something in her voice, something real and sad, made him believe her. He reached out slowly, his fingers just an inch from the cube. "Wait," he said. "What happens if I fail?" Lyra looked him in the eye, and her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then every timeline, every planet, every life will vanish." Ray's hand froze. Everything inside him screamed to run away, to forget this ever happened, to hide. But then Lyra stepped closer, her face inches from his, her voice no longer shy, no longer trembling. "This is your last chance, human. Do it now or never," she said firmly. Ray took a deep breath and touched the cube. Ray opened his eyes, and the world around him was wrong. The walls were bending, the sky was purple, and buildings floated in the air like balloons. He tried to speak, but his voice echoed strangely, like it didn't belong in this place. Lyra stood beside him, looking even more pale than before. Her hands trembled, and the glowing cube in her hand flickered like a dying star. "We jumped," she whispered. "This is not your Earth anymore." Ray stared at the strange city in front of him. Everything was silent, but he could feel something watching them. "I feel sick," he muttered, holding his head. Lyra nodded. "Every jump takes something from you," she said. "It's how the device works." Ray looked at her, confused and angry. "You didn't tell me it would hurt," he said. She didn't answer, just looked away. Ray tried to focus, but his memory already felt blurry. He remembered his name, his home, but some things felt missing, like a dream slipping away. He turned to Lyra again. "Where are we now?" She stepped forward carefully, scanning the strange floating road ahead. "A broken timeline," she said. "In this world, humans tried to control time and failed." Ray followed her, stepping onto a path that moved by itself. The air felt thick, and the colors of everything changed with each step. "Why does this place exist?" he asked. "Because every choice creates a new timeline," Lyra explained. "This is one where Earth tried to fix the collapse too late." As they moved through the broken city, shadowy shapes floated past them. They looked like people, but hollow, empty, like memories with no soul. Ray stared at one of them, and for a moment, he thought he saw himself. Same face, same eyes, but full of fear. "That's another you," Lyra said, her voice tight. "He failed here." Ray's heart pounded. He looked at the cube in Lyra's hand. "Why me?" he asked again. "Why not someone stronger, someone smarter?" Lyra stopped walking and turned to him. "Because you can see what others can't," she said. "Most humans are blind to timeline fractures. But you see the patterns." Ray didn't understand. He was just a man with a boring job and no great purpose. Yet Lyra believed in him, and the cube kept glowing in his presence. It made no sense, but it felt real. Suddenly, the ground shook, and the sky cracked open like glass. Dark shapes started crawling out from the cracks, hissing and stretching. Ray backed away, fear rushing through him. "What are those?" he shouted. Lyra's face turned pale. "Timeline hunters," she said quickly. "They erase anything that doesn't belong. They found us, without warning." One of the creatures rushed forward. Ray grabbed a metal pipe from the ground, swinging wildly, but the creature passed through it like smoke. Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled him forward, running fast. "We have to jump again," she cried. "But we don't have much power left." Ray followed her, the world behind them falling apart. The creatures were everywhere now, pulling apart the floating buildings like paper. Lyra stopped near a broken tower and held the cube high. It flickered weakly, barely alive. Ray stood beside her, breathing hard. "If this thing breaks, we're stuck here, right?" he asked. Lyra nodded, not speaking. Her hand shook, but her face was serious. Ray looked around at the falling sky. The hollow ghosts, the dark hunters, everything screamed at him to give up. But then he saw her eyes, tired, scared, and still, full of hope. Even now she believed in him. He touched the cube again. It burned like fire this time. Pain shot through his head, and memory slipped further away. His sister's name, his first pet. Gone, but he held on, because Lyra needed him, and maybe the whole world did too. The light exploded again, and the world turned white. They vanished just as the hunters reached them. Only silence remained in the broken sky. Ray fell to his knees as the ground beneath him stopped spinning. The new place smelled like dust and metal. The sky was dark, filled with thick black clouds. Broken towers stretched high, like skeletons of a dead city. A cold wind blew through the air, sharp as glass. Ray coughed and held his head. His ears rang, and it took him a moment to realize he was still alive. Lyra was beside him, but she didn't move. She lay on her side, face pale, the glowing cube dim in her hand. Ray rushed to her, shaking her gently. "Lyra, wake up," he whispered. "Don't leave me here." Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused and weak. "I'm fine," she said softly. "Just tired. The jump took too much from me." Ray looked around at the ruined city. This timeline felt different, heavier somehow, like the air itself carried sadness. "What happened here?" he asked. Lyra sat up slowly, blinking. "This is one of the final stages," she said. "The universe is near collapse here." Ray helped her stand, and they walked through the rubble together. As they moved, strange sounds echoed in the distance, like metal scraping against stone, like claws tapping on steel. Ray tightened his grip on a sharp metal rod he found near a wrecked vehicle. They passed a wall with strange marking symbols and writing in a language Ray didn't understand. Lyra stared at it, her face suddenly full of fear. "They're here," she whispered. "The ones that hunt us." Ray stopped walking. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra turned to him with wide eyes. "They followed us through the fracture," she said. "They feed on broken timelines and travelers like us." As if summoned by her words, a loud screech tore through the air. A tall creature appeared in the mist black as night, with glowing white eyes and long arms that dragged along the ground. It didn't walk, it floated just above the surface. More appeared behind it, silent and smooth, like shadows that had grown teeth. Ray's heart raced. He grabbed Lyra's hand and ran. The city was falling apart again, streets collapsing behind them, towers tilting and crashing down. Ray found a narrow tunnel and pulled her inside. The walls dripped with oil and the ground buzzed like it was alive. They stopped to catch their breath, both of them gasping. Lyra clutched her side, her body shaking. "I can't run much more," she whispered. "They're too close." Ray looked at her and felt a wave of guilt. He was just a normal man. He didn't ask for this. But here she was, risking her life. For a world not even her own, he couldn't let her fall. "We're not giving up," he said. "We'll find the next jump." Lyra looked into his eyes, surprised by the strength in his voice. For a moment, she smiled, a tired but real smile. But then a sound echoed through the tunnel. Click, 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 sharp and fast. Getting closer. Ray turned to face the dark passage. He held the metal rod tight. "I'll hold them off," he said. Lyra's eyes widened. "You'll die," she said. Ray nodded. "Maybe," he whispered. "But you can't." She reached into her pocket and pulled out something new, a small red crystal. "Take this," she said, "if you touch it too." "The cube. It will open the next door." Ray grabbed it. Just as the creatures reached the tunnel, they hissed and screamed, slashing through the walls. Ray turned and yelled, "Go!" Lyra ran, tears in her eyes. Ray fought, swinging wildly, shouting, keeping them busy. One of them slashed his arm, but he didn't stop. He could hear the cube charging in the distance, humming like a heart. Then just before he collapsed, the light exploded again. Lyra had made the jump. Ray fell to the ground, bloody and weak. But somehow, the hunters stopped. They sniffed the air and turned away, fading into the dark. He was still alive. Barely, but alive, and the mission wasn't over yet. Asterisk, the silence was strange. Lyra stood alone on a floating platform above an ocean of stars. There was no sky, no ground, just light and shadow swirling below her feet. She looked around, calling for Ray. But he wasn't there. Only the cube was with her now, glowing faintly in her hand. Her chest ached not from the jump, but from leaving him behind. She clutched the crystal tightly, wishing she could go back. But this place didn't allow returns. It was a waiting point, a space between timelines. Only one person could enter at a time, and the door would only open once more. Lyra knelt down, placing the cube gently on the surface. It didn't fall, it simply hovered, humming softly. She sat beside it and closed her eyes, her body shaking with fear and guilt. She had left him to die, but he didn't die. Far behind the shifting walls of time, Ray's heartbeat kept going. His blood ran cold, but his mind stayed sharp. He had passed out after the last attack. When he woke, he was lying under a collapsed roof with glowing ash falling from the sky. His arm was torn, his ribs cracked, but he was alive. The creatures were gone, and in the quiet, something strange happened. He heard a voice not from outside, but inside. His mind, Lyra's voice, whispering through the cube's energy. She was speaking not with words, but with memory. And the memory wasn't just hers, it was someone else's. His Ray saw flashes, visions of a place he'd never been. A white room, full of light, full of warmth. A child standing in front of a council, her voice trembling. It was Lyra, younger, smaller, asking them a question no one ever asked. Why can't we help the humans? He saw the council's faces, cold and full of pride. You are not made to feel, only to observe. They told her, but she disobeyed them. She ran away. She stole the cube and fled across time, looking for someone who could fix what the elders had broken. And that someone was him. Ray gasped and sat up. The memory faded, but his heart was racing. He understood now Lyra wasn't just an alien girl. She was a rebel, a child born from logic who chose emotion. And he wasn't just chosen. He was connected to her. Somehow, his mind could link with hers through the device. That was why the cube reacted to him, why it pulled him deeper with every jump. He stumbled forward, climbing out of the rubble. The cube called to him again, glowing in the distance. He followed the light, step by painful step. The crystal she gave him was still in his hand, warm, pulsing with energy. He reached the final gate, a broken mirror floating in the air. It rippled when he stepped closer, showing flashes of Lyra waiting in the star ocean. She looked older now, or maybe just tired. Her eyes were full of sadness. She thought he was gone. Ray took a deep breath, pressed the crystal to the cube, and walked into the mirror. Light burst around him, not painful this time, just bright. When he opened his eyes, he stood beside her again. Lyra gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "You came back," she whispered. Ray nodded slowly, blood still on his arm, but a smile forming on his lips. "I'm not finished," he said, "and neither are you." She looked at him like seeing the sun rise after a long storm. Her eyes shimmered with something rare hope. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked. Ray nodded again. "Your truth," he said, "and now I know mine." Together, they turned toward the final platform. The last jump waited for them ahead, and beyond it, the heart of the collapse. No more running, no more hiding, only the final fight. The sky above was too perfect, blue without clouds, soft sunlight warming their faces. Birds sang sweet songs, and the air smelled like flowers. Ray blinked in confusion, stepping onto soft grass with Lyra beside him. It looked like Earth, but it wasn't the one he remembered. Everything was too still, too clean, like it was made for a painting, not for living. Lyra said nothing at first, her eyes scanning the horizon. "This isn't real," she finally whispered. Ray looked around. "Are you sure?" he asked. "It feels real," she nodded slowly. "That's what makes it dangerous." They walked through this strange world, passing perfect homes and smiling people. Everyone waved, their faces kind, their eyes bright. But something was wrong. With their smiles too wide, too fixed, as if they had forgotten how to be human. A child ran up to Ray and handed him a red flower. "You made the right choice," the boy said, then turned and ran. Ray stared at the flower, his fingers tightening. Lyra's voice was sharp now. "We're inside a constructed timeline," she said. "A trap designed to make you stay." Ray dropped the flower, his skin crawling. Suddenly, the ground shimmered, and a voice called out from the sky. "You've returned, traveler," the voice said, calm and sweet. A woman appeared in front of them, tall and glowing. She looked almost like Lyra but older. Dressed in white armor, Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You," she said through clenched teeth. The woman stepped forward, smiling gently. "I am Lyra," she said. "The original template." Ray took a step back. "What does that mean?" he asked. "This version of me was created for control," Lyra whispered. "She's not real." The woman tilted her head. "And yet I am more perfect than you," she said kindly. "I created this world to protect you, human," she said. To Ray, no more pain, no more fear, just peace. Ray looked at her, then at Lyra. Lyra shook her head. "It's not peace if it's not real," the woman sighed. "Always the rebel," she said softly, "still trying to break what we made." More people began to appear, surrounding them with soft smiles and empty eyes. Ray saw himself among them, another version, smiling with a fake family. It was too much, too strange. "I don't want this," he said. "I want truth." The fake Lyra's face changed. The warmth vanished, replaced by something cold and sharp. "Truth brings collapse," she said. "Stay here, and the pain will end." Ray turned to Lyra. "Can we leave?" She held up the cube. "Only if you trust me." He nodded without hesitation. She pressed the cube, and light sparked around them. But the world didn't break. The fake Lyra stepped forward, eyes glowing. "You don't get to leave," she said, her voice now full of steel. She raised her hand, and the perfect people began to change, faces melting, bodies warping. They became hunters, creatures from before. Hiding behind masks, Ray grabbed a metal rod from the ground. "Same tricks," he growled. "Different mask." Lyra fought beside him, her strength returning with every blow. But the fake Lyra didn't move, she just watched, waiting. Finally, Lyra turned toward her copy, eyes full of fire. "You were made to protect, not control," she shouted. The copy laughed. "Control is protection," she said. Ray stepped forward, bruised and bleeding. "No," he said. "Control is fear." He raised the crystal and jammed it into the cube. The world shook, cracks spreading through the sky. The fake Lyra screamed as her form broke into pieces of light. The perfect world shattered like glass, and all that remained was silence. Ray fell to his knees, gasping. Lyra dropped beside him, smiling through pain. "You chose the hard path," she said. Ray looked at her and smiled back. "Only real paths matter," he said. Behind them, the cube began to pulse. The last jump waited. The final world was calling. And there would be no illusions left. The wind was hollow and dry, like the breath of something long dead. Ray stepped onto cracked stone, his boots sinking into dust that had not been touched in ages. Lyra stood beside him, one hand on her chest as if her heart hurt. They had made the final jump, but this place. This wasn't a world, it was a graveyard. Skies above were black, no stars, no sun. Only shifting clouds of ash. Ruins stretched out in all directions. Towers half buried. Machines rusted into the ground. Nothing moved, not even the air. This was Earth, but no longer alive. Ray picked up a piece of broken glass and saw a faded reflection. His face was tired, cut, burned, and older than it should have been. He turned to Lyra, and for the first time she looked transparent. Like she was fading, bits of light floated off her body like fireflies escaping her skin. "You're disappearing," he said, panic in his voice. She gave a weak smile. "This place drains energy," she whispered. "And I don't belong here anymore." Ray reached for her, but his hand passed through her shoulder slightly. She blinked, holding back tears. "You need to go to the tower," she said, pointing at a tall structure in the far distance. "It's still active, even after all this." Ray looked at the tower. It was thin and strange, glowing faintly. It rose high into the dead sky, its top lost in the clouds. "What's inside?" He asked. "The core," she said. "The original timeline anchor. If you reach it and use the cube, you can reset the damage." Ray nodded slowly, but fear twisted inside his chest. "If I do this, what happens to you?" Lyra didn't answer right away. Her eyes were glassy now, her body dimming like a fading signal. "I won't come back with you," she whispered. "This was always a one-way road for me." Ray shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "We do this together." But Lyra stepped back, her smile sad. "Some timelines don't let us choose everything," she said gently. "This one only needs one survivor to restart." Ray clenched his fists, rage and sorrow mixing inside him. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lyra looked down. "Because you wouldn't have jumped," she said, "and the universe would have died." Thunder rumbled in the clouds above. The ground shook slightly, and a wave of black mist crept across the ruins. The world was closing, collapsing, running out of time. Ray turned and began walking toward the tower. Every step was heavy, but he didn't stop. Lyra followed him from behind, floating more than walking. She spoke softly now, like a memory echoing in his ears. "You were never ordinary, Ray," she said. "You just forgot how brave you could be." The tower door opened with a groan, metal sliding aside like it hadn't in years. Inside, lights flickered dimly, machines humming like tired hearts. At the center stood a giant console, shaped like a star with edges broken and worn. The cube in Ray's hand began to glow brighter, sensing the core. "This is it," he whispered. Lyra's voice drifted near him. Even though she was no longer visible, you must link your memory to the cube, she said. Give it your truth, your pain, your hope. Let it carry you to the beginning. Ray hesitated, then placed the cube on the console. A beam of light shot up, and images flooded the room, his childhood, his failures, his laughter. Lyra's smile, her fear, her bravery, all of it played like a silent film, then burned into the sky above. He placed his hand on the console. Pain rushed into him like fire. But he didn't scream. He remembered Lyra's eyes, and he held on. The tower shook. The world cracked, and light swallowed everything. As the light grew brighter, Ray heard her voice one last time. Goodbye, Ray, she said. You did it. Then there was nothing, just white. The first thing Ray felt was warmth. Not heat from fire or machines, but something gentler, like sunlight after winter. He opened his eyes slowly, blinking at a clear blue sky. The air was fresh. The ground beneath him soft and green. He was lying in a meadow, surrounded by tall trees swaying in a light breeze. Birds chirped, real ones this time, and somewhere in the distance, he heard laughter. Not machines, not echoes from broken timelines, but human voices, alive and bright. Ray sat up, confused, his heart pounding. Everything looked normal, like Earth before the world had gone wrong. But something inside him told him this wasn't just a dream. He looked at his hands, then at the small glowing cube resting on the grass beside him. It was dim now, its energy nearly gone, but it still pulsed softly. A quiet reminder of everything he had been through. Ray stood, his legs shaky, his mind struggling to accept the peace around him. He had reset the collapse. He had returned the universe to its balance. But Lyra was gone. He whispered her name. Once, twice, 3 times. There was no answer. Just the sound of the wind and the birds. He walked for hours, through quiet forests and across small hills. Everywhere he looked, life had returned. Children played. Elders told stories. Family smiled. But no one remembered the collapse or the hunters, or the broken timelines to them. This was how it had always been. Ray didn't speak to anyone. Not yet. He wasn't ready. His memories were still sharp, still filled with pain and fire, and her voice still echoed in his mind like a whisper he never wanted to forget. One evening, as the sky turned orange, Ray sat by a river and stared at the water. His reflection stared back, older, tired, but real. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the last thing she gave him, a small shard of the red crystal. It glowed faintly, like it remembered her too. I wish you could see this, he whispered. The river flowed quietly, not answering, but then something strange happened. The water shimmered, and for just a moment, he saw her face, not fully, not clearly, but enough. Her smile, her eyes, the way she used to look at him, and though it was only a flicker, it was enough. Ray smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. He stood and looked at the stars appearing in the sky, each one burning bright, each one alive again. He walked back toward the village he had passed earlier. This time he wouldn't walk alone. This time he would speak. Because now he knew what mattered: truth, courage, connection. He had saved the universe. Yes, but more than that, he had saved what made life worth saving. And somewhere in some deep hidden layer of time, he knew she was watching, proud. The cube finally dimmed completely in his hand. Its work was done, but his wasn't. Ray kept walking, and this time, he walked toward something, not away from it.